It might feel like this year has just begun, but it took CEOs just the first 33 hours of 2020 to earn the average British worker's entire annual salary. By the end of the year, the average CEO will have earned 117 times what the average employee earns. A FTSE 100 CEO earns 144 times more than a nurse, 142 times more than a teacher, and 150 times than a police constable. My question is this. Would a FTSE 100 CEO be less productive or worse at their job if they earned, say, $2 million a year instead of the average $3.46 million? No. What if someone on minimum wage had an extra grand to make their life run a little bit more smoothly? Yes. New rules come into force this year, and firms with over 250 employees have to disclose the ratio difference in pay between their CEOs and their average worker, and justify why the gap is so big. I'm not saying we need a cap on the total amount, but might a cap on the ratio make our country a fairer and more productive place?
So I find this conversation, this narrative around comparing the FTSE 100 CEO to the average wage of a nurse and a firefighter, I find it bizarre and completely irrelevant. And when you get to the top of your game, whatever your game is, the top, and these 100 people, these are people who are absolutely at the top of their game. They have made sacrifices. They are not your average worker in whatever sector. They are not average. If they were average, they wouldn't be fielding those things. The FTSE 100 and the progression, development and success of those FTSE 100 companies benefits all pension holders. Well, most pension holders have funds that are invested in FTSE 100 companies, so they need to do well. Now, I do believe that we should incentivise people to be at the top of their game when they're there. But I also agree with the reporting mechanism of showing the ratio gap, because I think it starts conversations, and those conversations are helpful.
You used the word irrelevant.
Yes.
Yeah. The fact that we have CEOs earning whatever millions and billionaires, whatever they're earning. Yeah, and to compare and to make the point that it's irrelevant to compare the fact that we have nurses who are using food banks these days. That is not an irrelevant injustice. Don't
put words into my mouth. I did not say it was an irrelevant injustice that people are on food banks. That is wrong. What I said was your comparison between a FTSE 100 CEO
unjust
and
literally
a nurse
means the
is
comparison.
irrelevant.
Unjust literally means the comparison. It is unjust that we have that level of wage disparity. That's the point. That's the point we're making here.
No, it's an irrelevant comparison. The two are not the same in any way.
Let's get another people. Rachel.
I think, Michelle, your, as it were, your absolute adoption of market principles is slightly obscuring your sense of humanity and justice in what is actually happening. I live in Notting Hill, and I cannot count the number of times I've sat next to a man at dinner and I've said, what do you do? And he says something like, I work at a merchant bank or hedge fund. And then I ask him how much he earns, and he'll say tens of millions of pounds a year. And I say, why is what you do worth more than what the nurse in A&E who's just treated my mother? No, wait, Michelle, this is important. Their value, they are not... The people whose pay is a fraction, 100th of these CEOs do just as important work with just as much responsibility as a CEO. So wait, can I just finish off? So I said, I still don't understand why what you do, you're justified taking home tens of millions. And he said, because I am a David Beckham of the financial world. And I say that's funny because as far as when I last looked, there was only one David Beckham. Right. But everyone around this table is earning tens of millions.
Before I bring anyone else in, for the record, my mum and sister, NHS workers, right?
Do you think they were paid properly?
No.
She didn't say they were.
My mum and sister are paid way less than what they are worth. They work way longer than
Michelle,
they should do. Hang on, just wait, my point. And I want those nurses to be paid more.
You're the one who always says the NHS needs to be cut back and it's waste.
What's that got to do with my mum and sister being paid not enough for their work? What's that got to do with the average FTSE 100 CEO?
But before we bring Greg in, you talk footsie, let's talk football. This is sixth form debating stuff because sadly, the world is not fair. The world is not right. A Harry Maguire of Manchester United makes £150,000 a week. A nurse would dream of that. It's not fair, but you're not going to change it like that.
Sorry. The entire debate was about changing the fact that it's not fair.
What are you going to do about football
It's
players?
not,
What are
I'm
you going
glad
to
you
do about
admit
sports
that Femi's
players?
right. It's not
That's
fair.
what you're
The entire point.
What are you going to do? It's like her and climate change.
I'll tell you what
Literally,
we
the
do.
debate-
Let's speak to one of these fat cats.
When I was a chief executive, people didn't earn anything like this. They earned, and actually, in the last 20 years, there's been incredible growth in what these people
in the
earn.
multiple.
In what these people earn.
But what should
and
the
I
multiple
think,
be?
and I think the shareholders who haven't been strong enough saying that is you're now earning too much, and I think there is an argument for earning too much. The way to do it, though, because it's not what they're earning compared to, say, the hedge fund guys is nothing. The hedge fund guys are earning way, way more than that. The private equity guys are earning way more than that. The way to do it is to have a much more effective taxation system, and actually say if you earn that sort of money, you're going to pay significantly more in tax. Yeah.
Can we just hear from Francis O'Grady of the TUC as to why actually we are all workers in the economy and why it's not fair that some people take so much more of the goodies than others? What she says is this tells you everything about how unfair our economy is. Every working person plays a part in creating Britain's wealth, but people at the top are taking more than their share. We need a real plan from the government to tackle excessive pay. That's TUC General Secretary.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a quote here from Andrea Leadsom, from the Tories, saying today's Fat Cat Day figures will be eye-watering for most people in the UK.
Yeah.
The numbers are lower than they were, but still concerning. As well as our world-leading legislation on excessive pay, new reforms this year will increase transparency around directors' responsibilities. And it's interesting that this is the Tory party. This is the Tory party that adopted American capitalism.
It's a one-nation Tory party now, by the way.
Yeah, well, it might be one nation for a while. But it is interesting that the politicians in the Tory party are as equally concerned about what has happened to executive pay.
And they are talking, I remember in the past they did talk about multiples. I think my own brother at one point said that the lowest paid worker should not be paid less than an eighth of what the highest paid worker or something. I may be wrong, but I remember people talking about
But this pay is coming down, by the way. It is on the decline, and I actually agree with this transparency, because I think that once it's transparent, this pay ratio, I think you'll start to see a correction, because I don't think people like this. It's not a socially popular situation to have, your CEOs on multiple. But I'm so uncomfortable with the notion that governments step in and say, right, your maximum ratio is this. I think it would be counterproductive to business.
And that's why you do it through taxation.
Well, yeah, you could do
or shareholder power. If they don't like it, they don't vote through the...
That's very difficult.
Have you seen any shareholders who've really taken that on board?
No, I can't recall the last successful
But
shareholder.
nor is the
vote.
Executive Pay Commission, which has been sitting for years and years, and it still hasn't come up with anything that the government can actually action.
I just want to bring back the point you said about how these CEOs, they are responsible for lots and many jobs. People are worth more than they're worth.
Yes.
If you take for example in a two-parent household, one parent goes off and does the sacrifices you referred to of not really seeing their kid that much, while the other parent stays home. Are we going to pretend that stay-at-home parent is less valuable to society, especially as the parenting within society is playing a vital role. B, their sacrifices in terms of their career is actually enabling that FTSE 100 to then go off and earn the millions and employ all those people that he does.
I just think you've got more. I just think your comparisons are irrelevant. If you want to have a conversation about raising minimum wage and doing that, that's not a problem. I would agree that many people are underpaid. I agree with all of that. I just dislike this comparison because I think it's politics of envy and it just confuses the conversation no end. Look, you and I, whilst we agree on the things, we disagree on the comparison. So let's cash in this debate, see what I did there, and move on. There are certain places that tourists just must visit when they're in the UK, as one American student found out. Mallory Bartow went viral after she posted a video of herself online checking out one of the most iconic locations Britain has to offer. Full of hope and glory and pints for less than £2. That's right, Wetherspoons. Look at this.
Okay, so the place that I found that interests me the most is this place called Wetherspoons in England, and it's so freaking good. Let's see what they got. Okay, so it's like really, really cheap. I'm gonna get the vegetarian breakfast, so I'll only get that amount, and then a latte, and then you get free refills. It's amazing. Okay, so I just got my cup, and then all you do, just say, want a latte? Boom. And you can do this as many times as you want. Okay, so we got all of this food,
And the coffee.
plus the coffee, for £10. And make sure you put the beans on the toast, because it's freaking amazing.
For showcasing the best of what this country has to offer, Mallory, you are our Straight Talker of the Week. You're sitting wondering what Wetherspoons was. Have you ever been in one?
Many times. I love a spoons.
If she has too
But
many
I
of those-
don't think we should be running those long adverts for the product.
If
for
she
the
has too
offering.
many of those beers, she might be a straight talker. She won't be a straight walker.
See
Got
what
another
you
I
bag.
know, they
did
keep flying out.
there. Right, I'm going for a pint. That's all we've got time for this week. So if you want to join the debate, just search for The Pledge on Twitter. And don't forget, you can take the debate with you by listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whichever app you prefer. Thanks for watching.